Hello everybody, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I had a bit of a technical misstep, so it won't be half-time and full-time, it's just going to be full-time on the 1-1 draw between Manchester City and Liverpool in the Premier League. The two best teams in the league by quite a way. The two best squads, not at the moment, just due to the fact that Liverpool got so many players out at the moment, and I think that played a big factor in this game. I'm going to run through the game now. I wrote all sorts of notes at halftime and then I had a few problems there, so forgive me for that. So I won't be able to give you that halftime kind of insight in terms of in that moment. But to be honest, it was all about the first half. The second half was quite frustrating, and I'll dive into why I feel like they got it completely wrong with Kevin De Brynne, or Kevin De Brynne himself got it wrong today for Manchester City, apart from missing the penalty. Let's get into the game and let's get into the starting lineups. For Man City, Ferran Torres kept his place. Mahrez dropped, not to the bench, like off the pitch. I'm not really sure what happened there. Apparently he's not injured, so really strange one there. And they could have used him, I think, at some points during the game, especially in the second half. But Ferran Torres was the main one there, and Jesus coming back into the team. Of course, he'd got a goal earlier in the week against Champions League. But he was able to start, and that was the right decision because he got himself a goal, didn't he? For Liverpool, it was about, are they calling them the Fab Four? It's inevitable, isn't it, that the headline's going to turn up. Jota started. Now, this isn't the first time that has happened. Firmino started as well, of course. But to play all four of them, it was something that they'd done against Sheffield United previously, and I was intrigued to see how they were going to kind of get at Manchester City. Because the thing you've got to remember with this game, you have to remember this. This isn't your normal Premier League game for Liverpool or Man City. And any kind of critique or tactical analysis that I will try and put forward in this game is not something that will work in other games, because you've got two teams that are really going at each other. And that's what we saw in the first half of this game. And so for Klopp, he had to make a decision here. Do you leave one of these two on the bench, Firmino and Jota, to give yourself something, keep your powder dry a little bit, to give yourself something to chuck on? Or do you chuck them all on there, go for the win, try and get it done in the first half, and then manage the game in the second half? He went with the first one. I think that was a bit of a mistake in hindsight, but that said, I think you can see from the way that the game panned out that actually, defensively, Liverpool got it right by playing that four, because that's what it was. It was almost a defensive tactic as well as an offensive one. With the ball, of course, you got bodies going forward. I think in the first 5 minutes you saw it. The first 25 minutes, by the way, it was all Liverpool. They were brilliant. And in that first 25 minutes, every time Liverpool won the ball, and they did because they set up this sort of almost like a back four at the front and allowed the two centre-backs of Manchester City to have the ball as much as they wanted, but tried to stop them being able to play through that four to kind of get at the defence. You also had Henderson and Wijnaldum, of course, playing in this game and almost creating a box with the two centre-backs at times when they didn't have the ball, but also it being a trigger when the ball did get past that front four, that they went and tried to sort of press them and try and win the ball back. But the first 25 minutes, Liverpool were brilliant. They were so good. And I think the thing that they did, though, is they didn't get a strong enough lead. Could they got 2 goals? I think they knew that, Klopp knew they had about 60 minutes. 60 minutes to get the best out of the squad that he's got right now. It's not his fault, but it's the way that it is. And was he going to have anything to bring off the bench? He didn't. And as the game wore on, the sort of control kind of moved into Man City's hands, but at the same time, Liverpool, I thought, were defensively really, really strong. And the bottom line of this entire game, the main thing for both of them was to not lose the game. I don't think both of them would have gone, look, quietly, fancy a draw. They would have both taken it. Because for Man City, they don't want to get cut adrift. For Liverpool, it's an away game. Who knows what the situation will be as time progresses? Being able to get fans in the stands and all that, it would have made a difference. But Liverpool started on fire, energised. Klopp's he often kind of leans towards this idea of, I'm not really sure about this, so I'm just going to go for it. It's about that positive energy. It's about kind of being ready to outwork the team. And I think if you say that with Klopp, it's often about what he gets out of these players in terms of work rate. I think when Klopp says that to this group, I think they get the hairs stand on the back of their necks. Do you know what I mean? They're up for it. And that's that they came out flying. They really, really did. Mane, let me show you this. The amount of duels that he won. It was amazing today. Look at this. 14 and he won 10 of them. Jota the second. So for Man City, when they kind of try and move the ball from side to side, Liverpool defensively were very, very strong. I just think in the second half, they punched themselves out a little bit. And in terms of bringing on Shaqiri, obviously losing Trent's not ideal. But apart from Shaqiri, you had Divock Origi, who's not been playing a lot recently. They didn't have much to bring off the bench. So they were looking to get the game won in that first 60 minutes, and they weren't able to do it. For me, watching the first half, I was looking at, and I wrote it down here, Kyle Walker, crucial, make yards. But the reason I was saying that is because, and this is what I'm going to get into in terms of my critique of Manchester City, is that Man City had a really good opportunity here to beat an understrength Liverpool side that became even more understrength as the game went on. You know, the likes of Firmino, who's just been such an asset for Liverpool, not really doing it for them, and they wanted to take him off, so they did. And that was interesting as well. That's worth remembering, that Firmino, who didn't play against Atalanta, he's the one that came off in this game. Again, I'm not sure that was completely the right decision for me. But for Man City, they had a real opportunity, and it was down that right-hand side. Because on that other side, you've got Jota playing almost like an offensive Henderson in terms of when they haven't got the ball down that right-hand side. Henderson behind there as the DM, and then Wijnaldum working that other space because Mane wins so many duels and he works so hard for the team. Same goes for Robertson. But you know how they play, Liverpool. They always have it far more congested on the right-hand side, and then they've got a bit of space on the left-hand side. And so that's where Man City were going to be able to kind of maybe break the press in terms of going round, but also kind of have that space to then do some damage. And that's where the goal came for Manchester City. Liverpool got their penalty. It was definitely a penalty, so I'm not going to concentrate on that for too long. And they were the better side, and they had some other opportunities as well. I thought Jota had a bad game, had a couple of sort of decent chances and wasn't able to get them. But for Man City and that goal, if you watch it, it's the switch across is crucial. But what Kyle Walker's got that space because Ferran Torres in the first half, and he didn't get much joy to be honest, was kind of pinning Robertson further back, and that allowed Walker to get the ball. Wijnaldum comes flying out because he's worried about Walker having that space to run into, and then Walker was able to play De Bruyne in, and from there the goal happened. Jesus, was it a good little turn or was it a bit of luck? I don't know, but he was able to poke it home, and they got a goal that they didn't deserve really, because the Liverpool press was quite similar to Arsenal in terms of the back line of the Manchester side having the ball but unable to get it through. Another thing to show you here, which continued throughout the whole game, is in terms of the touches that the players had. I think it just highlights it massively. Look at it. Ruben Dias and Emerick Laporte, they both had the ball so much, and they were allowed the ball so much. And for me, I'm not the biggest fan of Gundogan, but I've got to give him credit here because I think Rodri had a really bad game. They struggled to get the ball through to him, and the only time in the second half we were able to beat the press a little bit more in terms of going through the middle was when they went to almost like dropped into a back three with Rodri there, and then from there you're able to make your way around the two strikers of Liverpool. But the first 20 minutes, I think it was shell shock for Man City, and then Gundogan kind of just got involved, and his sort of in-game intelligence really came to the fore for me. I thought he was fantastic in terms of just just helping out Rodri, basically helping him to kind of go right. This is the way that we get around them. As the game went on, of course, there was a penalty. I mean, Christ, I'm so pleased De Bruyne missed it, because what's Gomez supposed to do? What is he supposed to do? He's just running. Now, I know there's a distance, of course, between Gomez and the ball, but still, there's really not that much he can do for me in that. So I'm pleased that he missed that, the penalty. It's amazing, isn't it? He's like the best striker of the ball in the world, and he's just another Man City player that can't score a penalty. There's a massive hoodoo over Man City when it comes to that. That was pretty much the sort of bulk of the first half. It was a cracking first half. And then the second half came, and this is where my sort of critique of Man City comes from. And what I will say is, I'll give you my kind of thoughts on the title race as a whole moving forward and what we kind of learnt from this. The big thing for me was that I think Man City missed a trick here. What I would have said at half-time was like that right-hand channel, and I tweeted it, that right-hand channel between that wide player for Man City who's going to stay out wide, and then that channel within, that's where De Bruyne should have stayed. And if we look at where he was on the pitch, let's have a quick look here. He was picking up the ball on that right-hand side at times, yes. But for me, he kept getting involved on the other side of the pitch. Now, I understand why he was doing that, because look, he's trying to be a bit of a playmaker, often against teams that aren't as good as Liverpool. you will just look to create overloads because everyone's just defending for their lives. But with this Liverpool side, I think there was more space on the right-hand side. There always is. And I think if he'd stayed there and been patient, and it would have allowed Gundogan maybe, Rodri maybe, to get the ball to him in those areas. And from those areas, you've got Jesus in front of you, can make those diagonal runs. You've got Sterling who can get involved as well. And I think there was a couple of crosses that came in from De Bruyne, and it was in that pocket of space where he can play those curled passes. Again, with Silva coming on at one point as well, after Torres, I think that was about 60 minutes. Again, let Silva be that wide guy who can then play it to De Bruyne. De Bruyne wouldn't stay on the right-hand side. And for me also, Man City as well. I think their kind of focus over the last few years has been down that left-hand side with the likes of Sterling. I remember being on the kickoff and you'd always see the sort of average positions of the Man City team, and it was always down that left-hand side. And I think now they need to work around that a little bit differently, because you've got Sterling who doesn't hug the touchline like he used to a couple of years ago. He's looking to get involved and be a lot narrower to try and get himself goals. And so it's just all really congested. And I think that played into Liverpool's hands, who I think from the 70th minute onwards, if they could have got a goal on the counter-attack, they would have been delighted with that. But I think the Man City defence was really, really good. So for Man City, De Bruyne let them down a little bit for me because he wasn't able to hold his position there. And you've got so much talent in the Man City team that I think they would have got him the ball. And I think then there would have been a lot more damage done to this Liverpool team. That is, so much character, so much kind of long-standing chemistry between those players, so much spirit and hard work, but just not the same kind of just quality that they would normally have, or the ability to really cut loose. Robertson and Trent were a lot more careful in this game. That was because of the front four. I'm sure I can find it here. If we look at Robertson's position here, he was a lot further back. There you go. It says it. Robertson was very careful. Normally he's there bombing forward, but because of the two in midfield, he had to stay back a lot further and allow Mane to just do his business basically and try and do it on his own. Look to get forward at times, but Robertson was that safety net for them because it was two teams that didn't want to lose. As much as Klopp looked to have a go with that front four, after that you need to have some sort of stability further back. So Robertson not playing the usual way that he does, which is a bit disappointing for me because he's in my FPL team. The final thing I would say is that I thought, look, in terms of the title race, Man City, I think, in this game have learnt what their best back four is. Cancelo, I thought, was great on the left-hand side. I thought he was really, really good for them. The two centre-backs had a lot to deal with. A hell of a lot to deal with. And I think overall, they really stood up to the test brilliantly. They obviously had the ball a hell of a lot. And I think they can be a bit better in terms of working it through. And again, I come back to what I was saying about De Bruyne. I think he let them down a little bit there. I think he needs to sort of keep his space, to use the width of the pitch to give them more chances. But they've learnt that. I think they know who their back four is. They've got a lovely run of games coming up, Man City. A really, really nice run of games coming up. And I think they're only going to get better, Man City. The bottom line is, when it comes to the title races, it's not actually won in this game. It's actually won in how good you can be against the rest. And I think what you saw in this game was that Liverpool don't have the ammo that they wish they could have at the moment, because you've got Firmino who's out of form, and Thiago's out, Van Dijk's out. The two centre backs don't feel as comfortable as they would like. That's the other thing with De Bruyne. I was thinking, stay on Joe Gomez, make him have to think a little bit more, because I think he grew into the game, but he was wobbling a little bit in that first half for me, when De Bruyne did get the ball in that pocket of space. Man City are about control, Liverpool about energy. How many of these other teams in the league can cope with these two? Very, very few. So it comes down to this. The other teams in the Premier League, who are going to be able to control Man City more often, and who are going to be able to stop the blistering the blistering energy of Liverpool more often? I think that game, I see Man City getting a little bit better. I think there could be tweaks there from Guardiola. And I'm going to stick with my prediction from the start of the season. From the recent Prem predictions, that I think Man City will just have a little bit too much in terms of depth. And I think Liverpool will be let down by the lack of depth that they've got. And that's not their fault. That really isn't their fault. But that's just how I feel at the moment. Now, that could change because I think the spirit, the vigour, the sort of the camaraderie of Liverpool is better than Man City's, no doubt. I just think they've been dealt a tough hand recently with the injuries that they've got. And if they continue to struggle with those, with the likes of even players that started today, like Matip, Alexander-Arnold getting injured there as well, they seem to having a tough time of it at the moment, Liverpool. And that depth that Man City have got because of the riches that they have could come to the fore as time goes on. And of course, you've got Jesus back, Aguero back. We will see. Obviously, there's so many permutations as time will go on, but I'm still just leaning there. But as the game went on, you could see that kind of control from Man City. You could see them getting a little bit better, and importantly, defenses win titles. And I think at the moment, you've now seen a back four, mainly due to the centre backs, that is better than that Liverpool back four at the moment. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on a game that was enthralling, but a little bit disappointing in the second half. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Who is your man of the match? My man of the match? Who's my man of the match? I'm going to go for Gundogan. I keep going for the midfielders. I know I do. But I thought Gundogan was great in this game. And to be fair, I've never really given him much credit because I've never really understood the reason for him. But a game like this was perfect for him. And I think he really, really helped them against what was a surprise lineup, I think, for Man City and Pep Guardiola. But who do you think was the man of the match? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then please do consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button as well. And I'll see you next time.